The Provisional Irish Republican Army carried out 2 bomb attacks against British coal ships in February 1981 and February 1982 at Lough Foyle, a large inlet between County Londonderry in Northern Ireland and County Donegal in the Republic of Ireland. Both vessels were sunk, but their crews reached the coastline safely in lifeboats. Early attacks on shipping. There had been a number of attacks on small vessels by the IRA before 1981. On April 1971, a Royal Navy survey launch was blown up at the port of Baltimore, in the Republic of Ireland. The motorboat, the Stork, was towed out to sea and destroyed by an explosive device before dawn, while the crew was ashore. Another British boat, the Puffin, received minor damage in the same action. Both motor launchers were attached to HMS Hecate. Between February and October 1972 the Provisional IRA carried out 2 bombings against sandbarges at Lough Foyle. 2 IRA members were killed by the premature explosion of one of the devices, while 2 of the barges were sunk in a second incident, with a loss of £80,000. These barges were probably the Lough Foyle and the Ballygin. The killing of Lord Mountbatten and 3 others at Mullimore, County Sligo, took place when they were on board Mountbatten's fishing boat, the Shadow V, on August 27, 1979. Background: the IRA's declared aim was to disrupt the maritime traffic to and from Londonderry Port, on the east bank of the Lough. They also intended to force British and Irish authorities to deploy security guards on board merchant ships. The IRA stated that they regarded the ships as commercial targets. On the British side, the Bird-class patrol boats HMS Signet and HMS Kingfisher were already assigned by the Royal Navy to protect the waterways of the province. The mission was to prevent the smuggling of weapons from the Republic. These warships were often shot at by the IRA, especially from Carlingford Lough. The Signet narrowly avoided 250 rounds fired by a sniper in South Armagh sinking of the Nellie M. The Nellie M was a coaster ship of 782 BRT, launched in 1972 at Yorkshire. She was owned by S. William Co. and Amp Co. Limited, of Liverpool at the time of the attack, which took place on 6 February 1981. The vessel was at anchor barely 300 yards from the Republic's shore, awaiting for proceeding up the river. The coal ship had departed from Liverpool with a cargo valued at £1 million. A team of 12 IRA men, meanwhile, had hijacked a pilot boat at a pier on Moville, on the northwest bank of the inlet. 5 of the group remained watching on shore, while another 7 members of the ASU, carrying 2 high-explosive charges, forced the skipper to take them to the British coal ship. Once on board, the Cell informed her captain about their intentions and ordered him to gather the crew and get his men into the lifeboat. 4 IRA members supervised the evacuation. At the same time, 3 others planted the charges in the engine room. The hijacked motor launch then took in tow the lifeboat, leaving her adrift close to the eastern shore, and headed back for Moville. As the lifeboat reached the beach, the first explosion shook the Nellie M. Huge flames, visible from several miles away, engulfed her bridge. A second blast, some hours later, blew up the bulkheads and the ship began to sink. The morning after, her stern was submerged. The hull was raised in 1982. Sinking of the St. Beddon. The next year, the IRA was able to repeat the same operation against another British coal ship, the St. Beddon, bound from Glasgow to Derry. The 1,250 BRT Beddon, built in Clyde and also launched in 1972, was owned by J and Amp, a Gardner and Amp Co. Limited of Glasgow. On February 23, 1982, the ship was at anchor off Derry, awaiting the tide to proceed upstream. This time the IRA boarding party was composed of 12 volunteers. The attack was again launched from the pilot boat based at Moville, and after the explosions, the cargo vessel sank on her starboard side in some 15 meters of water. She was raised and scrapped by November 1982. The lifeboat with the crew members was towed to the shoreline in the same way as in the case of the Nellie M. Aftermath. One of the unexpected consequences triggered by the bombings was the debate in the oirectors about the dispute with the United Kingdom on the legal jurisdiction over the waterways in Northern Ireland. The salvage of the Nellie M was conducted by a company from the Republic, and her wreckage was sold to a ship owner in that state, who refurbished the ship under the name of Ellie. The coal ship was subsequently bought by several companies. She was lengthened by 7 meters and renamed Trimix. Since 2000 she is managed by a Colombian company after being rechristened Dove. The St. Bedan was instead declared a constructive total loss and scrapped at Liverpool. The Royal Navy and the Royal Air Force increased the patrols in Northern Ireland waters following the attacks. A bigger naval target was hit by the IRA several years later in 1990, when an unknown number of its members managed to board the RFA Fort Victoria at anchor near Belfast. Shortly after her launching, they planted 2 large bombs in her engine room. One of the devices exploded, damaging her considerably. The second one was successfully defused.